Live on Joy 99.7 FM, this is the Midday News. The Midday News is also live on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi, affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. We're on Radio Somale in Wa, Victory FM in Keta, Buipe FM in Buipe, Bederin FM in Buntrugu, and Kaleo FM in Akachi. We're on Twitter Spaces, we're on Facebook, and myjoyonline.com. The Midday News is sponsored by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. This afternoon,
the way we are seeing things, we don't know who we should report to. MP to make us so be a campaign near to Abamano. But we are
the cry of residents of English Yamanfro in the South municipality who've been cut off from the rest of the city after a heavy downpour.
We needed the government to come in. So we are pleading for the government to come in. That's our needs.
We have more as the Assemblyman blames the flooding on lack of funds to desilt drains as the Meteorological Department warns of more rains until the second week of July.
Yes, we are in the peak of the rainy season. So definitely we'll have one or two before we'll get out of the hood. We'll get out of this stage roughly second week in July.
We also have the latest in our Flats of Trauma series. Also, government urged to halt the Tema Oil Refinery's controversial 6-year lease agreement with Torrent Coal.
I think that government should pull the brakes, do further consultation so that we can together fashion a way of dealing with talk.
We'll get to hear from the Energy Minister, who assures of government's diligence in the approval of the deal.
The proposals lying down in talk. The Attorney General is having a look, SIGA is having a look, Finance Ministry. Because you're saying journalists will come and say government has sold talk to his cronies if we don't get it right. We'll work diligently to give Ghanaians what is good.
Plus, the Public Procurement Authority's response to a request for Sosol's deal by the Tema Oil Refinery. In sports,
Parliament celebrates Ghana's top goal scorer, Samoa Gyan, after he announced his retirement.
He never missed the opportunity for restoring joy into the heart of Ghanaians with the music, dance, and economic opportunity that has offered the youth.
And much later,
we didn't see any payment on the 5th. The next was on the 12th. No coupon was due on the 12th. Yes, still, we didn't hear anything about a payment.
Pensioner bondholders resume picketing at the Finance Ministry to demand payment of 6 coupon arrears after government's promise to promptly pay their coupons failed. We have that and more in this afternoon's edition of the Midday News. I am Emefa Apawu, and this is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Please stay for details. We head to the South municipality, and residents there are in a state of anger, sadness and confusion. That's how English Yamanfro residents say they feel as they've been cut off from the rest of the South municipality due to flood waters. The rains, which started yesterday, has totally covered their roads, destroyed homes and swept away a mother and her 2 children who are yet to be found. Pupils were seen carried on the shoulders of their parents to cross the waters. Workers rolled up their clothes and many others walked in groups to enable them cross the almost knee-length waters. They say they are tired of promises to get drains constructed in the area.
Situation here has been there for a while. It's so many years now. We needed the government to come in and intervene and help us to do this situation. In fact, government comes and goes. The MPs and the assemblymen, all of them comes and goes. They don't have any help to help us here. So what we are pleading to the government now is the government should come in and help us in our situation here. The way we are seeing things is very, very hectic, and we don't know who we should report to. So we are pleading for the government to come in with the situation here. It's very, very serious.
Well, the assemblyman for the area, Perseus Kwashi, explained lack of funds has hindered them from desilting, dredging and constructing enough drains in the community.
The assembly, we've done everything, but we have not been able to do the desilting and the dredging. That is why we are seeing this flooding here.
Why haven't you been able to do the desilting and the dredging?
The road engineer responded that they are waiting for some funds from central government and then urban roads, regional urban roads, to come and do the desilting and then dredging. And funds have not come yet, and that is why we are seeing this.
That's the assemblyman for the South Municipality, Perseus Kwashi. My colleague Maxwell Agbagba joins us from Peacetown in the South Municipality. Maxwell, you've been there all morning. Paint a picture of how the current situation looks like.
Well, churches, schools, homes are affected by the rain. I can still see scores of people gathered at the cut-off point. As many of them are waiting, for the water to subside so they can cross and come, to town and then go about their normal duties. The courageous ones are wading through the water, which is reaching above waist level, depending on your height. For those who are new to the area, who do not know the depth of the water, the flood water, they do not want to risk it because it looks dangerous. The residents tell me that it is a perennial problem, an age-old problem, and they want city authorities to fix the challenge.
And we are told that officers from the Gassant municipality were in the area but had no canoes, no way of rescuing those who have been stranded.
Exactly. Residents tell us that officials of the National Disaster Management Organization were here who had wanted, to help deal with what was happening very early in the morning, but they didn't really have the necessary equipment and logistics to do that, so they went back. In fact, many school children who had wanted to cross to go to school couldn't do that, in the process, so they had to go back home, remove their school uniforms, and then get into bed. Many workers also who had wanted to cross couldn't do so. So as it stands right now, it's just residents taking matters into their own hands, taking the risk and trying to cross. But we still have some lifeguards from the community here who are trying to help those who have the courage to cross.
Well, earlier, Maxwell reported about a woman and her 2 children who were missing. Have they been found now, or any news about them?
Well, they told that the lifeguards who were here were able to save them. In fact, another man who I've been interacting with about 5 minutes ago told me about how he was nearly swept away by the flood water. He says, but for the intervention of the lifeguards who were here right after the area got flooded, would have been dead.
Well, that's my colleague Maxwell Agbagba there reporting from the South Municipality. He'll be there for us all day, giving us updates on the situation. Well, the Deputy Director of Forecasting at the Meteorological Department, Dr. Potofe, is asking residents in low-lying areas to move to higher grounds. Here's why.
We are in the peak of the rainy season. We'll get out of this stage roughly second week in July. So we'll play that, yes, if it is a flat-front area, then you get moved out. When the rain subsides, then you come back. That's the best thing. And then we also advise that people should not be commuting wherever they suspect there will be flood there. We should find an alternative route. And when we are driving home, we know our environment. We should be very cautious. If you think the kind of rain that is coming will flood my area, seek refuge somewhere, and then when it's down, then you can pass on it.
Well, let me bring in the ranking member on the Works and Housing Committee of Parliament, Vincent Opowasamwa. We are grateful for your time here on the Midday News. Honestly, it's becoming tiring reporting on this annual ritual. I hear you say that the only solution is a comprehensive step. What would that comprehensive step be?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Yes, I heard a very good advice from Meteorological Service. The best advice that I've heard so far, those in low-lying areas will just move to higher ground so that at least they can salvage some of their valuables. Because if we rely on politicians around this, and there's absolutely nothing that is going to be done to solve any problem now. Because, just like you said, almost every time it rains, we have these problems here or there. But before we can solve this problem, there should be a very comprehensive program. Just like when we had issues with energy, government borrowed a lot. We had a trouble around issues with gas. We don't have issues with gas anymore because we invested so much in that because government prioritized that one. You remember the issues that we had with this West Africa gas pipeline. So we took a very bold decision to solve it. Accra needs a very comprehensive measures to solve that flooding system in Accra. And the silting of drains and all these things are just temporary measures. Mm-hmm. And I even wonder whether it can even solve any problem.
But we are grateful that at least you've been able to admit that we can't rely on politicians when it comes to this time of the season. But really, this comprehensive step you talk about, we will need the politicians to implement. Are they committed to doing that?
We understand it. The politicians, at least their will should be there. And we have to look for the money to do it. And I remember, that is the reason why I made mention of a trouble. We spent a lot, almost $1 billion. But we know right now issues with gas, at least we are somewhere. We are not solved it completely, but at least you admit that is even bringing in some income. So
but thankfully, Mr. Opoasamoah, you are a ranking member on the Works and Housing Committee. You have oversight. Last year, the minister came to your committee and told you that there are lack of funds, that has not been released from the finance ministry, and we've looked on up until now. What exactly has been done?
You know something? Just like you said, 2022, the budget, we gave the ministry over 500 million Ghana cedis. But actually release was even less than 10% of that money, actual release. So that should tell you where the priority of this government is. Go into the budget and see where government is spending its money. Government doesn't care about investing in drains. You construct roads, but you don't construct drains. So at the end of it, all the investment that we make in road projects, when there are major rains, these roads are washed away because we don't construct drains. And we need to prioritize the issues of the drainage system in Accra because we know where we are. Accra is in a low-lying area leading straight to the sea. So if we have a city like Accra and we don't put so much money to construct drains, covers another very, very well, every time that it rains, we lose a lot of money.
We are grateful, and that's Vincent Opoasamoah. He's a ranking member on the Works and Housing Committee of Parliament. Well, amidst the relentless downpour of the rainy season, a cloud of apprehension hangs over the residents residing near the banks of the Odo River. In our latest episode of Floods of Trauma, we visit 5 different individuals who have separate stories. Like a recurring nightmare, the fear of the rainy season grips their hearts as they bear witness to the rising waters that threaten to consume their homes and belongings. My colleague Michael Ashali has more.
In Adabraka, a community very close to the Odona River, and this household right here has a peculiar relationship with floods. This wall that I sit on is arguably the only surviving one because the others have all given way to the force of the floods. They have all tumbled down. And the residents share their story. At least the few remaining ones. In Adabraka, we met 2 brothers, Kofi KK and Daniel Asiedu. Their house now floods after every heavy downpour. More recently, the force of the water collapsed their walls.
Last year, the flood came, and it came around 2:25 p.m. or a.m. Yeah, but I heard boom at once, and I realized what is happening. I think it's a thunder, but I came from my room, and I see there's plenty water. By the moment I'm trying to come outside, and I see my wall has fell down at once, boom. This is the wall. You can see the wall. This is the wall.
Their tenants have now taken the hard decision to vacate their rooms just before the rainy season.
That's our Flood of Trauma series. Now, government is being urged to halt the Tema Oil Refinery's controversial 6-year lease agreement with Torrentco ascending. Some civil society organizations have in the last week raised concerns about the deal, which will see some of TOR's key assets handed the company to enable it refine up to 8 million barrels of oil a year. Vice President of Imani Africa, Bright Simmons, says the transaction will not solve the refinery's current challenges.
Trying to remedy is basically to restart the refinery, because the refinery has not been producing since sometime around March 2021. Imani's position is that the transaction will not solve the problems of the Tema Oil Refinery.
Why?
And for that, we need to first start off with what are the problems, right?
Yeah.
And then we can conclude that it doesn't work. So the problems are primarily threefold. The first problem is that the refinery often doesn't have working capital to import crude, refine it, sell it, and pay back on good time.
Okay.
If the creditors give it credit, it's because of the previous challenge that it had, and it has to keep servicing debt and the rest of it. It keeps making losses, which keeps accumulating. The second problem is that the equipment are not in the most pristine state.
Bright Simmons also questions the capacity of Torrentco.
More important than not, a lot of the strength of this consortium, a lot of the appeal of this consortium lies in the fact that they claim Vitol, which is a globally renowned commodity trading company, will give them the crude oil. But the documents that we've reviewed suggest that Vitol is not going to give them this because Vitol has not made any commitment to it. It's made it very clear that it's only expressed an interest to have conversations if the company is granted the lease.
Now, a ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament, John Jinapo, wants the transaction put on hold.
If you do the analysis, you're simply not going to make any progress. But even more is the fact that they took this agreement to the Public Procurement Authority for approval, knowing that there is a Public-Private Partnership Act which stipulates that you must go to the Ministry of Finance and meet the PPA committee for an assessment before going to Public Procurement Authority. So if the Public Procurement Authority had not restricted them, you'd have had a major problem. And if you read the PPA letter, it does appear that there are several sub agreements. So I think that government should pull the brakes, do further consultation, consult stakeholders, i.e. members of parliament, industry players, civil societies such as MANI and SF and all those people, so that we can together fashion a way of dealing with TOR. You cannot deal with TOR's problem in a firefighting approach. It will not work.
Well, the Petroleum Union Staff Association says its calls for management to pull the brakes on the deal have been ignored. Anthony Kumsing is chairman of the association.
As workers, we asked for requisite information to understand the transaction that was ongoing. We're given the lease agreement, we perused it, we saw all the inconsistencies and the misrepresentations in it. We drew management attention to it, we drew board attention to it, and we were only blacklisted and blackmailed. As we speak now, the refinery has two other options on its table. It has legacy capital that has come to survey the plant, have discussion with management, done presentation. Then we have Falcon American Oil that has done safe. Last week, the entire week, Falcon was with the refinery. Did the presentation, engaged all staff, toured the plant, and they are yet to bring their proposal.
Well, in spite of the concerns, the Senior Staff Association of TOR are in agreement with the deal. But my colleague Elton Brobe joins me in studio also on a request to the Public Procurement Authority for a sole source approach by government. Well, Elton, what did the PPA have to say about this transaction?
So this letter is dated 15th June 2023. The title is Request to adopt single source procurement to engage strategic partners for the Tema Oil Refinery lease transaction. And the letter says we refer to a letter, the reference is quoted, and earlier correspondence on the above subject. The board at its meeting held on Thursday, 15th June 2023, considered the following full complements of documents submitted by Tema Oil Refinery in explanation, clarification, and support for its requests. And a tall list of the things that TOR presented to the PPA, justifying the need for them to undertake sole sourcing in this regard. That the conclusion of PPA is they said that we find the request to seek to enter into lease agreement with Terenco Asset Management Limited and its partners to enable Terenco set up an SPV to start a refinery process at TOR, a core mandate of TOR, and will help restore TOR to profitability. Upon careful consideration of the above documents and engagement with TOR, we are of the considered opinion that the request be referred to the Public-Private Partnership Committee of the Ministry of Finance for consideration pursuant to the Public-Private Partnership Act 2020. So you can say that the PPA rejected the request to undertake sole sourcing in this regard.
Well, we'll have to check with the Finance Ministry on what exactly the deal is about and what the advice to the Energy Ministry has been. Well, members of the Pensioner Bondholders Forum have for the fifth time resumed picketing at the Finance Ministry over 6 new coupon arrears. The arrears are coupons that have matured over the past 3 weeks. The bondholders say that although government has cleared their previous arrears up to May, they are forced to resume the picketing to force government to adhere to it. As always, James Aveji has been with the pensioner bondholders. He joins us in studio. So what's the story today and what exactly is the status?
Yes, Emefa. So at the last picketing, we know that government owed them 5 coupons and 4 principals. As at today, government has cleared all the 5 principals owed up to May 29 and then all the 4 principals as well. So
the 5 coupons and the 4 principals
have all been cleared.
Okay.
But the reason why they are returning today is because from 1st June till today, government has accrued 6 more coupons and has not paid that yet. And then if you remember, at the last picketing, they were calling for all the principals that were in arrest for government to pay interest on that. That government has also not done it. So those are the 2 reasons why they have come. But we can listen to Dr. Edouard Nanyentri.
Yes, because you have the 9 people, some in the first case, some of them more than 3 months of somebody's money, which is using to invest. And these are people who are relying solely on that. So you mean that 3 months, the person, senior should earn nothing. And is government going to pay for his or her medication and food? That is not right. That is not right. You shouldn't treat your citizens like that. That is our point. That is not right. If you can't return the money to them, then pay them some interest so that they can buy their medicine. So that one, we are going to insist on it.
That's the convener of the pensioner bondholders, Dr. Edu Ananientri, taking us on a quick break here on the Midday News on Joy 99.7 FM in Accra, in Kumasi on Love 99.5 FM. The Midday News is sponsored by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. And when we return from the break, we'll take you to Parliament, where they are celebrating Ghana's top goal scorer, Asamoah Gyan, after he announces retirement.
He never missed the opportunity for restoring joy into the heart of Ghanaians with the music, dance, and economic opportunity that has offered the youth.
Have you noticed that Ghana has suffered lack of attendance at stadia across the country in recent years? Well, the Multimedia Group wants to be part of the solution, which is why we're calling on you, our dear listener, to help us. Our sister station, Inshira FM in Kumasi, has been on a nationwide campaign to identify factors influencing poor patronage of Ghana Premier League matches. This campaign has been widely discussed on traditional and social media since the beginning of the year. And after widespread stakeholder engagement, we have a list of questions in a survey that will help us come out with a communique based on science and data, and we need you to assist by completing this survey. The link to the survey is bit.ly/PhilGPL questionnaire. Once again, bit.ly/PhilGPL questionnaire. Please help Inshira FM and the Multimedia Group complete the survey in order to have a scientific response to this national problem.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday News. Time for sports. Mubarak.
Yep, Emefa, let's get to Parliament because Majority Chief Whip Frank Anodompre has eulogized former Black Stars captain Asamoah Gyan, calling the nation to honor him for his exploit. The Ghana top scorer, who is also the first international player to score in 9 successive tournaments, announced his retirement from football, making the statement on the On the floor of the House, the Majority Chief Whip said Jan brought glory and honor to the country.
He never missed opportunity for restoring joy into the heart of Ghanaians with the music, dance, and economic opportunity that has offered the youth. In any case, Pele once touted, and I quote, "A penalty is a cowardly way to score," unquote. And by extension of this, we know that a hero once played in the colors of our flag and scored on several occasions with no act of cowardice. I equal to the man who manages companies with the head and manages the ball with his feet.
Yeah, now former Youth and Sports Minister Dr. Rashid Popo recalled a goal Jan scored against Nigeria while he was minister and touted Jan's unifying qualities.
From football is giving us a reason to say that it is time for us to also recognize what he has done and play the game he played all these years. He played for everybody, and let us all play for him. That today we are recognizing him as a whole for what he has done for Ghana. The Speaker, the gentleman we are celebrating eventually played a keeping role in Ghana football as a captain, and he moved Ghana along in many of the matches we played.
That's about it for sports. Back to you, Emefa.
Thank you very much, Mubarak. Now, Secretary of the defunct Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Charles Bisu, has withdrawn one of his 3 cases against the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Well, this is the case in which he had asked the court to either halt the OSP's investigations or direct that the investigative journalist Anas Arimiyawa Anas be included as a suspect. He also wanted the court to bar the investigative body from arresting him. This development comes barely a day after Mr. Bisu was arrested and granted bail by the OSP. Legal Affairs correspondent Joseph Akable was in court for us as always and joins us on the line. So, Joseph, do we know why he has decided to abandon this case, and what are the 2 other cases that are pending?
The court was not given a specific reason, but per the information we are picking up, it indicates that it has to do with the fact that the issues he was raising in this particular case are now moot because he has already showed up at the Office of the Special Prosecutor, and it means that some of the matters would not have to be dealt with by the court anymore. In terms of the 2 other cases that are outstanding, there is one at the Human Rights Court in which he's alleging that the OSP has abused his rights by the way he's going about the investigation. That is still outstanding. Then there is the other one in which he's questioning why he's being investigated when the police has already probed him and dealt with the matter already. That is also outstanding as well.
Okay, let me stay a while longer with you, Joseph. It's still in court because the Supreme Court has handed NDC's James Achekwesin 7 days to file a review of the decision which directed Parliament to expunge his name from his records. Well, tell us more about this particular directive.
So they are seeking to overturn that particular decision. We know that the by-election is taking place next week, but as far as the lawyers are concerned, because the review is for a specific period of time, they want to take advantage of all the processes so that no matter what the outcome of that by-election will be, they could still pursue this legal remedy as well, Emefa.
Thank you very much. That's our legal affairs correspondent, Joseph Akable. Now, efficient farm equipment is crucial in sustainable agriculture. More so, tools capable of executing several tasks at the same time can make farming enjoyable. Well, this is what the students of Obuasi Senior High Technical School have been able to conceive. The students have been able to build a solar-powered electric farm solution capable of spraying, weeding, and checking soil temperature and moisture at the same time. Love FM's Kwesi Deborah has today's edition of Tech Thursday.
The machine, which can be controlled manually and remotely, consists of a solar panel, a mower, a Bluetooth device for connecting to nearby mobile devices, among others.
There are basically 3 of them. One for digging through the soil, another for turning up and down the soil, and another for cutting. This particular device is used for weeding and spraying pesticides and fertilizers onto the crops. The beautiful thing about this project is that it can be controlled both manually and remotely. This is the second part of our project work, which is able to irrigate automatically, determine weather condition, and also turn on alarm to scare intruders from the farm. Another good thing about this aspect of project is that all data gathered by the device is sent via Bluetooth to the farmer's mobile phone. This helps the farmer to make decisions and also manage the farm very well. We chose Bluetooth over Wi-Fi because you need not to pay for internet service.
Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Deborah.
Now, in a race against time, the U.S. Coast Guard's Captain Jamie Frederick says the team cannot locate the missing Titan submersible vessel. The Titan submersible carrying 5 people went missing en route to the Titanic wreck on 18 June 2023. Here, except from a press conference.
We don't know what they are, to be frank with you. The P3 detected noises. That's why they're up there. That's why they're doing what they're doing. That's why they put sonar buoys in the water. Yeah, I'm not sure of the exact technical piece of that. We know there's about 40 hours of breathable air left based on that initial report. Again, that was just the initial report based on 96 hours from when the vessel. We will do everything in our power to effect a rescue.
And that's how we end today's edition of the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com, and part of English Yamanfru cut off after torrential rains, and then also anti-LGBTQ bill. No court can prevent Parliament from passing it. Some George. You can read more on myjoyonline.com. Living Word with Pastor Mensa Otabil is up next. I am Emefa Apawu. Many thanks for your company.